Welcome to Competitive Elder Dragon Highlander Television. My name is Mons and I'm the host of this show, and you're currently watching our video about interactive win cons. Now, competitive commander decks are all trying to win the game with some form of fast combo win, like Flash Hulk. That is forcing all players to include cards like counterspells or any other form of interaction to deal with this, so that they don't lose to a fast combo win attempt. Now let's look at Scavenging Ooze, because it's a perfect card to showcase interactive win con and what I'm going to be talking about inside this video. So for 2 mana you get a 2/2 with a very cool ability. 1 green mana, exile a card from a graveyard, and if you exile a creature card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on Scavenging Ooze. So Scavenging Ooze is a good card that can interact with some graveyard combos. It can actually interact with some Protean Hulk combos, well, most of them. It's actually a good card to include if you're going up against a lot of graveyard strategies. Now let's compare Scavenging Ooze to Counterspell. They are both inside our deck with the same purpose, making sure that we don't accidentally lose to a combo. But there's a difference here. If Scavenging Ooze is left unchecked, it will grow and become bigger. My personal record in a competitive game is an 8-8, and I actually won that game with my 8-8 Scavenging Ooze, going face. I was unable to win with my combo, and so was every other opponent, but my Scavenging Ooze was left unchecked and became a win con, an interactive win con. Counterspell can't do that. It's only an interaction, it's not a win con. It can't win the game the same as Scavenging Ooze if it's left unchecked. But I want to emphasize that you should play Counterspell anyway. It's a really good and important card for your deck. Now let's compare Scavenging Ooze with Champion of Lambhold. So Champion of Lambhold is definitely a champion in casual games. It's growing bigger, faster than Scavenging Ooze is. However, this have no interaction against your opponents whatsoever. It's gonna look and stare and do nothing, look pretty silly when your opponent is doing this. And that is why this casual champion is staying in casual. Now let's compare Scavenging Ooze with Iona. Definitely a stompy hate bear, a 7/7 flyer with an interaction against your opponents. However, it costs 9 mana, making it quite impossible to play. Sure, you could reanimate it, but I think there are better reanimated targets. Scavenging Ooze only costs 2 mana and 1 to activate, a lot better. But your interactive win con cards could also be combo pieces, like Walking Ballista. Now this death machine comes with a grindy ability. For 4 mana, you can put a +1/+1 counter on the ballista, making it hit face a lot harder. But you can also remove the +1/+1 counter to deal 1 damage to a player or creature. That is 4 mana kill Notion Thief, 4 mana kill Bloom Tender. Now let's say that Tassiger of the Golden Fang is your commander and you want to win the game with Flash and Hulk. Begin with the first Hulk trigger, finding Body Double that becomes a copy of the Hulk, and Carrion Feeder when it's 1-cost sack outlet. Then sacrifice this to get a secondary Hulk trigger. Now find Mikaeus then hollowed for 6 and Walking Ballista for 0. Now because of Mikaeus, Walking Ballista is a 1/1 with Undying. We begin with sacrificing it to Carrion Feeder. Trigger Undying comes back with a +1/+1 counter, which you can remove to deal 1 damage to a player, and you have infinite damage. Everything in instant speed. But it doesn't have to be a creature card to be an interactive win con. Here is Girapur Zader Grid. Tap 2 untapped artifact, deal 1 damage to a creature or player. I would also like to mention this thing. I usually view it as a 2 mana destroy all dogs, or 3 mana destroy all dogs and some hate bears. But when you reach 5 mana, you will kill pretty much all creature cards, but also all artifacts. But if you reach 9 mana, you will pretty much board wipe, destroy all artifact, and gain an 8/8. And an 8/8 is definitely something. I also think that Conqueror's Flail is a worthy mention, a little bit weaker compared to Grand Abolisher. But if you want to have more versions of Grand Abolisher in your deck, then you should look at Conqueror's Flail. because if you are running your commanders Thrasius and Tymna and you have both in play, if you equip this flail to Tymna, she will become a 6/6 lifelink. Nesumi Grave Robber is also an interactive win con, as it is interacting with your opponent's graveyards, but if it reached a point where no one dealt with it, you can for 5 mana and instant speed return any creature card from any graveyard into the battlefield under your control, and that is pretty nasty. I've actually won games with only this. Deathrite Shaman is a good mention. You can use this ability over and over, dealing 2 damage to each opponent. If you have 3 opponents, that's equal to dealing 6 loss of life. This is also a good interaction against graveyards, and it will also make sure that your duocs are growing in power, or potentially your commander is also attacking with you. Then you have this thing, which is a grindy and slow way of making sure your opponents are discarding cards continuously throughout the game, and by also creating tokens along the way. This is also a very grindy and slow interaction, demanding all 5 color identities, but you can use this ability in instant speed, making sure that you have interactions at the ready, and then cast it, and then slowly kill your opponents. Olivia Voldaren is also a very strong card. For 4 mana, then 2 mana, deal 1 damage to that duoc, and Olivia will grow. This is also a good hate bear that will exile opponents' creatures when they die, and will grow in the process. And if the game turns into a slugfest, then this will become pretty huge. And if it's undealt with, it becomes a very good win con. Father Adel is a very interesting card with Island Walk, and if it deals combat damage to an opponent's face, you may search that player's deck for an artifact, put it in exile. You can let it stay in exile, making it a little bit difficult for your opponent if they want to win with their Paradox Engine or maybe Chain Veil. However, you could also cast it and use it, so you could steal a Walking Ballista or maybe something like this. I would also like to mention this, and you might be a little bit skeptic, but hear me out. It comes into play, give you 2 life and give you a token, but if nothing happens more, if a player doesn't cast any spells, it will flip into a 4/4, deal 2 damage to a creature and that creature's controller's face. And eventually, someone is going to cast 2 spells the same turn, then it flips back and keep giving you tokens. Trust me, this thing is flipping more than you think. And as it's flipping more and more, it's dealing more damage to creatures, removing creatures like Birds of Paradise from the game or Tymna, but also giving you tokens in the process. So how are we gonna build our deck? Now here we have 3 different kinds of interactive win cons that is going to be included in different scenarios. So this thing is going to be auto-included whenever you have the access to green and black. And this thing is going to be included whenever you're going for that Flashhawk combo that I showcased. But this thing will probably only be included inside your 99 if you're not really going for a combo. You could potentially build a deck that is only focusing at assembling some form of interactive win con that is left unchecked, like Olivia Voldaren, and grows out of control. Olivia Voldaren could grow out of control and become a grindy queen that is destroying everything and then hitting players' face like really big. Because, let me state this, the game and metagame of cEDH is focused around combo. Everything is about combo, assembling the combo and stopping combo. But you actually don't need to win with a combo yourself. Your entire deck could be filled with interaction of some sort that is later than just going to win the game somehow. Olivia Voldaren is such a card, Walking Ballista too, and Deathrite Shaman as well. Now if you wanna go for a build that is filled with Olivia Voldaren variations, cards that have the potential of becoming a win con if they are left unchecked, but will also help out making sure that you don't accidentally lose the game to some sort of combo, then you should look for commanders that have a card drawing effect. Tymna and Chrome are perfect examples. You could also switch out Chrome by going Thrasius. However, now you can't play Olivia Voldaren because you don't have the color identity of red anymore, but you could play an Offensa the Foremost because now you have the color identity of green. But with Phrasis and Tymna, you would also have access to the Flash Hulk combo package that I showcased in the beginning of the video using Walking Ballista as a win con. So you're never forced to abandon a combo package or a combo alternative if you're trying to go for this kind of strategy. It just varies how many versions of an offense and the foremost and interactive win cons you want to have and how much combo speed you want to have. Sure, you could abandon combo altogether and only go for interaction if you want to. It all depends on how you want to play and how you want your deck to operate. This is a very grindy and slow commander, but if you have a good deck that is able to play on a very good curve, then eventually when the game goes long, because that's what you're trying to go, you get your Muldrotha out in play, and then you start to recast your stuff from your graveyard, such as Deathrite Shaman and maybe Walking Ballista, and start to grind value. Tasigur the Golden Fang is also a card draw effect. He draws cards, making it possible for you to go the distance and draw more fuel. So when you've run out of gas, get your commander Tasigur or maybe Muldrotha in play and start accumulating more gas. Alesha who smiles at death. The same thing with Muldrotha. Doesn't actually draw cards, but bring cards back from your graveyard that you lost. Well, you can't bring back Walking Ballista, but you could bring back this thing. In the end, Alesha who smiles at death is a commander that is able to give you more gas in some form of way. You could call it card production. Yuriko is also such a commander. This is a card draw effect. Grenzo Dungeon Warden is also a good example. He goes infinite with Doomsday. With Grenzo and Doomsday and 5 mana, 3 mana to cast Doomsday and then 2 mana to activate Grenzo, you win the game. I might showcase in a video how that is actually executed, but you could also look at Grenzo as a card drawing effect. If your deck is filled with creature cards, then he is drawing cards for you, or well, he's putting creature cards from the bottom of your deck into play. If you're unlucky, you're putting a bunch of cards into your graveyard. That is sad, but if you have a lot of creature cards, this is a card draw effect. In the beginning of this video, I did mention that Iona is a little bit too expensive, but there are 2 creature cards that are really expensive that actually do see play in cEDH from time to time. They are both good examples of creatures that is doing just the thing, even though they cost a lot of mana. You can have a few creatures inside the deck that are really expensive. So both of these 2 commanders see play in Bloodpod, and Bloodpod is a typical deck that is doing this thing that I'm talking about right now, interactive win con. Bloodpod has a lot of alternative ways to win, except the Kiki-Yiki. So your build could include maybe 1 or 2 creatures that is really expensive and really stompy if you're going for this very grindy interactive playstyle. If you don't know what this thing does, it will give all your opponent's creatures -2/-2, and it will give all your other creature cards +2/+2. So basically this will kill your opponent's dorks, laboratory maniacs and other stuff like that, and it will make all your dorks really big, and you can overrun all of your opponents with this card only and some dorks. Oh yeah, by the way, I have a tapped out page that you can find in the description below. It will take you to the list that you're currently looking at, where I have all the interactive win con suggestions and some suggested commanders. Feel free to suggest new things that I might have overlooked. I hope you have grasped the message I'm trying to send, and I hope you're looking at Scavenging Ooze with a little bit of a different eyes now. I also hope that I have inspired you with some new ideas, and that I also have given you some knowledge about the cEDH format. I want to emphasize that you actually don't need to win with your combo. You can have a combo inside your deck, but if that fails, Scavenging Ooze might be a good backup plan. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching.